Hello there, it's Gordon with the Great Gordino Newsletter, September the 16th, the Rock and Roll Bandits. Now I will start off by saying, when I set the phone up to do this video, it seems to be on a slope. It's gone all slopey for some reason. I don't know if it's the stand gone wonky, but it looks like I'm on a ship, doesn't it? Or going round a corner, but anyway, wonky. Story of my life, so I'm going to go with it. Yes, the Great Gordino Newsletter, the Rock and Roll Bandits. Now I wasn't sure if I was going to do a newsletter video or even one at all this week, because the only real story that caught my eye was another sports one, and I didn't want to do a sports one this week because I don't want to go too much with the sports ones. But then something came up in my Facebook memories which made me smile, and it made me think of the story and some points that go with my message. And of course, as I say a lot, all any of us have as individuals are our stories and our message. So it makes sense for me to go with it. Plus it made me smile, which is another thing I talk about a lot. So, the Rock and Roll Bandits. The picture that came up on my Facebook memories was of me, a guitarist called Reese, a bass player called Matt in the studio, and we were recording a song as part of one of my musical ideas, the Rock and Roll Bandits. And the idea was an idea that I've had for years. And the idea is to do sort of rock / glam rock / heavy rock cover versions of pop songs. So within the first 2 or 3 notes, or the first 2 or 3 bars, anyone listening would think, hang on, I recognise that song, but it's all rocked up. And they might smile as they heard the song, that pushes my buttons, doesn't it? Now, here's an idea of how old this idea was for the Rock and Roll Bandits, because originally the band was going to be called the Great Gordino's Rock and Roll Glitter Bandits, which makes me laugh. But you can't call a band glitter now. You can't have glitter in a band name nowadays, not for many years, or you're causing controversy if you are. So I thought, well, I can't call it the Great Gordino's Rock and Roll Glitter Bandits, so I just call it the Great Gordino's Rock and Roll Bandits, which sort of works, shortened to the Rock and Roll Bandits. And as time went on, and I thought, oh yeah, I'll do that idea sometime in the future, never getting round to it, it occurred to me that I might use a crowdfunding model. And if you're going to crowdfund something, preferably you will have a demo version for people to get the idea. So I thought, I know what I'll do. I'll record one song, pay for it out of my own pocket, pay for the studio, pay for musicians, pay for copyright licenses and all the rest of it, and then use that song as the demo to crowdfund the next song, which would pay for itself, and then crowdfund the next one, and as it picked up, etc, etc, etc. So anyone indulging in the crowdfunding all they'd need to do was basically buy the next song in advance. And then who knows where that idea might go, because if it kicked off and took off and you started to get a lot of people crowdfunding, then you might start to not only pay for itself but actually make some money as well, and you could actually earn a living doing that. Strictly speaking, the model says yes, of course you can. So through the jam circuit over the years, I got to know Reese on the guitar, and I got to know Matt, who plays bass predominantly, but he started out playing drums and he sings. So the thing is as well, I'd actually asked both of them if they were up for the idea, and they both thought it was hilarious. They thought it was a great idea, and I said to them, by the way, I'm going to be paying you as well, because let's get rid of this idea of the poor struggling musician and musicians doing it for free. I thought, I'm going to pay them up front as session musicians. And I said to them, it's not going to be much, I'm going to be honest. And I explained the concept that I was doing a demo version to hopefully crowdfund future versions. But I was going to pay them because I was paying the studio. I wouldn't have dreamt of asking the bloke running the studio to do it for free. So why would it be okay for me to expect Matt and Reese to do it for free? So I was happy to pay them. And I still didn't get round to it. But eventually, after kicking myself in the backside for months and months and months, we got round to doing it. So we turned up in the studio. I'd explained to them both how I wanted it to go. Reese turned up into the studio with all his parts completely learnt. And I said to him, I want you to come up with a twiddly solo, because Reese is good at the twiddling guitars, the heavy metal, real twiddling stuff. I said, I want you to come up with a solo for that as well. And he came up with one prepared, with 2 or 3 versions prepared, actually. Matt, bless him, turned up, I'm going to say hungover, and he said, how does the song go again? So what Reese and I did was recorded the rhythm guitar and drums together, which is, you don't normally do it like that. But we did it like that so that Matt could say, right, as you're doing that, I'll work out how the song goes. And another problem with us doing that was that when it comes to timing on the drums, I like to call my timing bohemian. Other people might call it all over the place. And when we came to Matt putting the bass track on, my drum timing was all over the place, because I don't like doing it. I haven't got the skill to play along with a click track. I haven't learnt that skill. So I thought, oh, close enough for rock and roll. So we just did it. And again, remember that the whole point of the project is it's supposed to be a smile attached to it as well. And also, the timing issues added a certain punk vibe to it. And whereas Reese is a rocker, a metal rocker, I would say that Matt was more leaning towards the punk side. So he enjoyed that as well, actually. And then when it came to Reese putting his solo over the top, you could see him smiling as he had to adjust the speed of his playing to the rhythm and drum track that we'd already laid down. But did it stop him? No, because he knew what he was doing. He could play. And did it bother or stop Matt? No. And Matt is also good at the sound engineering. So as well as Jim, who runs the studio, Matt was adding production input to it as well. Great. And we recorded the song, which I thought made me laugh. And then I set about doing the crowdfunding, and it didn't really work, if I'm honest. And there's a couple of reasons why it didn't really work. One was I just didn't push it enough. I just didn't promote the idea enough. And I'll come to the reasons for that in a minute. The other idea was a couple of people who said, well, I'm not sure. This was via Pledge Music, by the way, which was basically a crowdfunding for musicians site, and still is. But a lot of people said, I've never heard of this Pledge site. I'm a bit unsure about giving money via it. Which I thought was a bit odd, because it's a secure site, it is an established site. But nevertheless, it's not up to me to tell people that they're wrong, because they weren't wrong. If they were worried about it, fine. So it didn't really work. And although I had come up with the next song that we were going to do, the first song we did was Hot Chocolate. It started with a kiss, because, well, everything's got to start somewhere. The second song we were going to do was When Will I See You Again by the 3 Degrees, all glam rocked up. And again, on the jam night circuit, I saw a female singer who I thought would be great for that, because she would do a better job of singing than I was doing. And I explained the project to her. And she said, yes, hilarious, fantastic, I'm in. Just let me know and we'll do it. And I just didn't get round to doing it. Partly because of just procrastination. I don't have to do it now. I'll do it sometime in the future. It can wait. And the other reason is something that I always find a bit odd about myself, and some people say it's a bit odd about me, is I get intimidated by others who are better skilled than me. So I was always intimidated by Reese, talking to him about music, because he's had musical skill levels so much higher than mine. I was always intimidated talking to Matt about music, because his skill levels... Paul Leader, Hot Chocolate copyright issues. No, I'd paid for the copyright. So I'd paid to get a license to record it, to record the cover version. So I'd made sure I was doing everything by the book, which again, the crowdfunding would pay for each. It's not expensive to buy these copyright licenses, but a lot of people just don't do it. And I thought, I'm going to do it from the word go just to cover myself. So yes, I get intimidated by talking to people who are better than me. And when I do actually talk to them and get something sorted, there is no need to be intimidated, which is usually the case, isn't it? And that's something that a message that I would put across. If you're intimidated, the way to get past being intimidated is just to do it and take action. Classic feel the fear and do it anyway. And you'll find that there really wasn't any need to be intimidated because they're both nice, friendly blokes as well. There's lots of egos going around in music, as you can imagine. Even at the open mic jam level, some massive egos, a lot of numpties around. So it's always nice to find people who are willing to do your projects that aren't in the numpty camp. And the other reason I never got around to doing the second one is because Reese died at the end of last year. He was only 30. Very sad tale, very much missed by a lot of people. And when I was at his funeral, which was so packed, it was standing room only, and I was one of the people who was standing outside, and the eulogies and all the rest of it, I was a bit surprised, I don't know why I would have been actually, to find that he liked a lot more of the rock metal type that I liked. I thought he was more into slightly different type of rock metal than me. And the reason I didn't know that was because I hadn't got to know him as well as I had liked because of the intimidation issue from my side. Just ridiculous. And really quite upsetting that I had let that happen. So the time had gone, the moment had gone. And when I was talking to people about it, they said, oh yeah, you could still carry on and do it. Because going back to the original idea of the Great Gordino's Rock and Roll Glitter Bandits, it would be me in the band, either drumming or singing or playing bass or rhythm guitar or something, with an interchangeable set of other musicians. It didn't have to be a set lineup in the band, which again would be an idea that would work quite well logically. So the fact that Reese is no longer with us, gone but certainly not forgotten, shouldn't stop me doing it. But it's the fact that I was going to do it with him just makes me, I mean, a year has passed now, so I'm feeling a bit more along the idea that I might go back to this idea actually, and I might try and crowdfund it through other crowdfunding platforms that people are a bit more familiar with if they're not familiar with pledge music. I mean, you could do it through something like Patreon or something, to be honest. There are plenty of crowdfunding ways. I could go back to it. I could just record Oh When Will I See You Again with Kelly on the vocals and Matt as well and Aina the guitarist, because it would be fun. Why not? I think that's on the cards. I really do, because it's in my mind. It was in my mind as the anniversary of Reese passing is approaching, and certainly when the Facebook memories came up. So there's the story. That's my story of that project in one of my passions. So in my passion profits theme or stream of content, we've all got our stories with our passions, and they are unique to us. So if we're promoting something via those stories, it's almost the best way that we've got as individuals to promote something, because no one else has got it. No one else has got our stories. We've got them. They're our stories, and we should take hold of these stories, own them, establish them so that we can tell them. And you've got your content then. You could do videos like I'm doing. You could do the written word. You could do audios, images. There's all sorts of content that we can create from our stories. Now, on the goal achievement, self-improvement side of it, obviously there are the points about not being intimidated, about if you put something off, be careful, because you think the time is there, the time might go. I saw a quote from Pablo Picasso the other day, and I need to do one of my quote images around this. He said, "Only put off until tomorrow what you are happy to die having left undone," along those lines. It's a good quote, isn't it? If it comes to being intimidated, take action to find out if you were right to be intimidated, or in all likelihood to find out you didn't need to be that intimidated. And of course, there's the classic goal achievement point of taking action. I'd thought about the idea, I'd worked out the plan, I'd spoken to certain people about it, but I didn't keep going. And by the way, keeping going is one of my steps on the 8-step goal achievement formula, because it's so important. People might take some action, and then stop and think, oh yeah, well, I've started now, so the rest of it is just going to happen by itself. It really isn't. You've got to keep going. So yeah, well, story makes me laugh, and makes me laugh, as I say, enough that I think When Will I See You Again is on the cards. Although when Matt last spoke to me about it, he said we could do maybe a Lou Reed, a more melancholy type of version. I said, no, Matt, I don't think you've been paying attention. And that's the other thing about it being my idea and my project, is that I can take input from people like Matt, whose input I want and I respect, but I can still say, no, I don't like that idea. I want it done this way because it's my project. I like that idea. That's another point, isn't it? If it's your project, take control of it. Take advice, but taking advice doesn't mean you have to act on it, does it? Some of Matt's advice on the day when we recorded It Started With a Kiss, I certainly did act on. I thought, yeah, you know what, you're right. And I took his advice. Some of it on the day, I thought, no, I'm happy with what I was doing anyway. And do you know what Matt said? Okay. Right, there we go. So that's my sort of Great Gordino newsletter for this week. A little story from the music side of my passions. There was some sequins involved. I had one of my sequin jackets on, and I bought some sequin stuff that I suggested to Matt and Reese that they might like to wear, and the answer from both of them was a fairly firm no. So I'm the only one with sequins in the photos, but there's enough sequins to go round, let's be honest. So there we go. Let me know what you think about the story, about the project, about the points I make in it. Do any of them relate to you? I hope all is well with you, physically and mentally. Wishing you health and happiness as ever, and I will speak to you soon.